Hello and welcome to the next edition in the Minecraft Studio free education classes here on our YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking at the overlays tab, which is something I've been working with a lot of customers quite recently, so I wanted to do a full session on how we can get the most out of it, and a few of the bits in there are actually some discontinued lines, so I'm going to go into a bit of detail on how we can actually still use them even though there's a little bit of product that is discontinued, but the functionality of the graphics program is still there. So let's see how we can maximise that. Now today I'm going to be working with our Quirky Bird Fairy Godmother download, which is a new download on the website if you're watching this in the last couple of weeks. So we are going to look at that download, and I have actually got a discount code for you. So from the 31st of August for 2 weeks, that discount code will be Fairy50. So that's Fairy50, and that will actually give you half price discount on this download. So yeah, I'll remind you of that towards the end of the class, but let's have a look at the computer. So here we've got Minecraft Studio on the screen. I've got it open already. As you may already know, the area in the centre is an A4 page, and we're going to work on this page. Now, if you do need to know the basics of the Minecraft Studio graphics program, please go back to the playlist on the Minecraft Studio classes, and episode 1, work your way through. Episode 1 will talk you all the way around the graphics program. So today we're working with a downloaded artwork pack. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the plus beside MCS artwork. But this time, instead of clicking on the plus beside my artwork, we're going to click on the plus beside my downloaded artwork, because that's where I keep my downloaded files. Just because I then know if I've downloaded it, I know that I don't actually have a physical USB or CD-ROM if you've got any of the older ones. If it's in my artwork, then I know I've got a physical copy of it somewhere. If it's in my downloaded artwork, I know that it's literally one that I bought from the internet or downloaded. So I'm going to click on the plus beside Fairy Godmother. And we're going to click on the plus beside number 1, the Fairy Godmother, because that's the folder in there where we've got the actual designs. So if I just come down in this box here, you'll see that we've got scene building, reflections, digi-stamps, and in this download we've also got some backgrounds and we've got colours and textures as well. So it's like a mini paper kit all in one download, which is fabulous. So if I have a look at the backgrounds, you'll see that we've got these beautiful designs. I'm going to bring this one onto the page so you can see there, lovely A5 pages. I love the colours on these ones. Really quite vibrant, but also a little bit softer than your standard fairy tale designs. So you can see we've got a few different styles of images here. So we've got 5 different scenes that we can actually build our elements up onto. I love these. I love this one here, just with the little drips there as well. Really gorgeous. Just going to clear the page down. So that's the backgrounds we've got in here. And then we've also got some colours and textures, which are our watercolour washes, which we can use to add just a little bit of detail in the background if we wanted to. And then we've also got our scene building elements. So these are the files that are from the dies, but are actually in PNG format so that we can actually build our scenes with them. Now here's our Fairy Godmother. Isn't she just amazing? I love her. I love Mel's whole story behind this one, that she wanted the Fairy Godmother. She didn't want it to be, we didn't want a skinny little mini, we just wanted a nice robust Fairy Godmother, I think was the word that Mel used when she was actually talking about designing her. We've actually got some wings that we can pop onto her as well. We've also got the beautiful carriage, and you can see here we've got all of this artwork. It's quite small when it comes on the page, but it doesn't matter how big we stretch it up. It actually still gives us beautiful detail. So let's have a look at this overlays tab that we just talked about. So up towards the top left of the page, we see we've got the home tab, we've got text, and then we've got overlays. So we've got 3 different stars here. Now, as we know from when we use the digital punch tab, we click on a star and it brings up different designs for us. So you can see we've got squares, circles, ovals, rectangles, we've got toppers, and then we've got some other designs down here. So I'm going to be honest with you. So the first one is Die Cut Studio. Die Cut Studio is something we used to do many years ago with Minecraft Studio, and they were actual die cut sheets that we sold that you printed onto, but they have been discontinued. However, that doesn't mean that this element within the graphics program isn't usable anymore, because we do have the first half a dozen in here. We can actually use them to create elements and sheets that we actually want to print out, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. So we also have the one that says we've got cards here. So you can see we click on the star that says design, and we have A5 landscape, A5 portrait, C6 landscape, C6 portrait, and then DL, and then we've also got 5x5 square. We've also got the inserts to match all of those card shapes and sizes, so you can see there. You can see here we've got all of these. Now if I just pop one of these onto the page, so if I click onto the cards, and we'll go with the DL We'll just go with the DL portrait to start with. So I clicked onto that. Nothing's happened at the moment because until we click on the paperclip button, the template doesn't appear on the page. So you can see here we've actually got a template on the page now for a card front. So this gives us the actual area for the complete card front. So you can see here we've got the centre point, we've actually got the centre line for the card, which is really, really useful. And then this obviously is the back area of the card. Now if I click onto the insert bar and come down here and we go to the DL portrait insert, you'll see that it's slightly smaller than the card, and that's because we want to be able to open the card without the insert being, we don't want the insert to overhang the card, so we need it a little bit smaller so that when we actually pull the card open, it pulls the insert, but the insert isn't actually sticking out of the card, because once you've folded it and stuck it inside the card, it actually pushes it forward just a little bit on those outer edges. So we're going to have a look at the Die Cut Studio designs. So I'm going to click on the star there, and we're going to have a look at let's have a look at the topper sheet here. So we click onto, whenever the paperclip is highlighted orange, that means that the template is activated. So whichever one we click onto, you'll see it changes to it on the page there. So we're going to work on the topper sheet at the moment. So what you can see here is this is a topper sheet. So you can see we've got the main topper here, and this is a little bit for background that we can actually mat and layer onto. Here we've got a large border, we've got some squares that we can use to create some embellishments, and then we've got a sentiment plaque down at the bottom as well. So I'm actually going to create my own topper sheet. I'm going to use this as a guide for how to do that. So this template won't print. We can switch it on and off at any point by using the paperclip button, and that's why it doesn't appear when we click onto here. That's why it doesn't appear at all until we click that button, because that means we can switch it on and off as we like while we're building our design. So let's have a look. So we've got our backgrounds on here. So let's start with a background, and I'm going to start on this section here, which is going to be my main topper, because I'm going to mat and layer it onto this one if we were to print this out and make a card. So I'm going to click onto my backgrounds, which is where the beautiful scenes are. And I think we'll go with this one here. So we'll go with this one here. Now you can see that the template is in front of the design, and the template will always stay in front of the design, but like I say, it won't print, so we don't need to worry about that. I'm going to reduce this in size so that it fits onto that design there. And then what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to crop this particular design so that it actually sits perfectly within that topper. So I'm going to zoom into the page just a little bit to be able to just see the full detail and get all the edges of the actual topper there. I'm going to go to the Home tab. I'm going to click on the crop button, and then what we're going to do is just do one single click over the top of that background. You'll see those white boxes that we used to change the side have now changed to grey. So when I put my mouse over the edge, you'll see it actually changes to a double arrow, and we can pull this in. And we can pull this edge in here as well. We can press OK. In fact, I just need to pull that bottom edge up just a little bit. Press OK, and now we've got our topper section complete there. So that's ready to actually print if we wanted to. What we're going to do is build a little bit of a design on this topper as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click that template off so that I can see exactly where I'm working. So I'm going to go into the scene building section. I'm going to bring our Wistful Palace onto the design. Absolutely beautiful. Just going to pop this onto here, and I'm actually going to fade this down because I'm going to leave it that size, but I don't want it to be overpowering on the front of the card. So I'm going to go to the Effects tab and choose the opacity, and I'm going to slide this over to the left just to fade that castle down just a little bit. Now you can see there, we can see the background starting to come through. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a little trick here. Go to the Home tab, we're going to copy and paste. That puts us 2 of those castles on the page. If I go to the layers, I need to make sure I'm working on the bottom one. I'm going to come up to the effects, and I'm going to go all the way across to the right hand side and change that one to white. If I go to the layers tab and switch off that one there, you'll see we've got a solid white castle there now. Now we're going to click onto the top, so the copy of the Wistful Palace. So you can see in this layers tab, it tells you which one you're actually working with. Click onto that one. I'm going to come to the effects, and now when we reduce the opacity, you'll see that we're fading down the detail of the castle so that it's not overpowering the design, but actually we can see that we've actually got the white design behind it. So that actually gives us a softer castle without actually losing the effect of having the detail on there. So you can see, if I switch that white one off behind, you can see the background showing through it, which may be the look that you like. Actually, I quite like that it looks like it's floating, almost looks like it's on pillars rather than being a complete castle. But if I click that one back on, you see the palace is actually there for us. So I'm going to go back to the files. I'm going to bring on our royal carriage. We're going to shrink this one down in size just a little bit. So I'm going to pop it on there, shrink it down, and pop it just to the side here. So maybe just a little bit more because it's quite big in proportion to the palace at the moment. So just going to shrink that down just a little bit there. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring on this flower here. This is our mystical adornment. So it's from the die that was called Mystical Adornments in the Fairy Godmother collection. But I'm just going to stretch this up quite large. I'm going to rotate it around. And I'm just going to pop this over the corner just there. Now what I want to do is get rid of this bit that's overhanging the edge, and because I've rotated it around, crop won't actually work for me. So if I click onto it and use my scissors tool, I can actually click and snip along here and go around it. So you can see I'm actually going around the edge of the design, but then when I get to the edge of the page, I'm just going in a straight line just up. So one single click gives me a really nice long straight line, which I can take along the edge of that topper. And then when I get back to the beginning, my line changes from black to blue. So I just need to get that back to the right place just on there. Click on there and you can see we're actually selected that particular area. So now if we select keep outer, we'll get rid of everything outside of the blue area. Keep inner, we'll select everything inside. So we're going to click on that and you can see we've actually got rid of those areas outside of that particular, outside of the topper there. So we're now starting to build our own beautiful topper here. I'm just going to fade this flower down just a little tiny bit. I don't want it too pale, but I just don't want it to be quite as vibrant. I just want a little bit of this blue from the background showing through, just so we've got a little bit more, a little bit softer, and it also tones a little bit better with the lilacs and the blues in that background there. I'm going to bring our Fairy Godmother on now. So I'm going to pop her onto the page. Pop her just there. Obviously she's a little bit big at the moment, so we're going to shrink her down so that she's beside the carriage just here. So just pop her just there, and then there she's positioned. So that's our topper created. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the overlays and we're going to switch that back on. So you can see there's our topper all ready to go. But what I'm going to do is just group these elements together. So I'm going to click and drag a box over the whole of the area. So all we do there is just a single click and hold down the button on your mouse and drag over the whole of that topper area. You can see we've actually grabbed hold of everything. Just going to pop back to the home tab and group that together. So that topper is now actually complete and solid. So if we do nudge anything, we're going to nudge the whole thing, which means it's easy to pop it back into position. So now we're going to get one of the backing papers and pop that onto here so that we can actually mat and layer onto it. Now we've got a couple of different options on that one. So we could go with the same scene. So we could pop this on here. And if I just zoom out of the page a little bit so you can see what we're doing. If I zoom out of the page, what we can do is we could actually stretch this up. So if I stretch that up there, go a little bit more, so just keep stretching it up. I could actually take this section here and crop the design there. So if we just do that, so we'll just click on crop, and I'm going to click and drag a box to cover up that topper. So we're just covering that section there, and then just let go with the mouse and press OK. And you'll see there, that if I now go back to the overlays and switch that off, we've got the mat and layer perfectly there from the backing paper. So we've got that option there. What we can also do is we can come into this colours and textures folder, and if I switch that overlay off again, the reason I'm doing that is because it gives it a yellow tint because it sits on top of the page. So I want to remove that just while I actually decide which of these backing papers I'm going to use. So I think for a little bit more contrast, I'm going to have a look at this dark purple one here. So you can see there we've got this beautiful wood grain here. I'm going to pop this on here. And I'm going to pop that template back on because you can see now this template tells me exactly where I need to crop this backing paper to. Even though it's a dark piece of paper, you can see I'm just going to crop into this box here. So I'm going to click on home, I'm going to click on crop, and we're just going to click and drag a box. So again, just one click with your mouse, click and drag a box. If you do actually go a little bit too far before you let go of the mouse, it's not a problem. Whatever these boxes are still grey, we can just drag these sides in to the edges of that topper. So you can see there, we can press OK. And what we can do now is we can click that overlay back off again. And I love the fact we can keep clicking it on and off so that we can just really look at the colour and look at the design and make sure that we're happy with it. Because what we can do now is we can come back to our layers tab. You see that this particular layer here looks like it's one image, but we've got a little arrow there that tells us that that piece is grouped together. But you can see here we've also got these two now, which are the two elements that we've got here. So if I click that one off, we can now decide whether we want that one or that one to actually mat and layer our topper onto. So what I might do is leave those two on there, because at some point later in the future we may actually come back, we may choose to change the design of this one and swap and have the other design on there, and it's already there ready for me, so that I don't have to worry about deciding which area of the background I want and how to actually crop it again. So we're going to come back into here. I'm going to go for the same background again. So actually no, I'm going to go with the lighter one for the background here. And we're going to crop to create this border here now. So again, we're going to go to the Home tab. We're going to click on the background. I'm going to click on crop, and then just click in the top left corner and drag across to the bottom right corner of that particular box there to create the border. Now with these pieces, you don't have to, obviously you don't have to use the whole thing. You could have a small border if you wanted to. It just gives you a guide, and because this is all designed in proportion to work together, it just gives you a really nice feel for the actual finished card that you're actually going to create. So I'm going to press OK on that there. So now we've got a nice border that's actually going to go along the back of the card, where we've got the piece of background there as well to mat and layer onto. And then I'm going to create a couple of little elements down here that can be embellishments for on the back of the card, which is always a nice feature. So when you're making a card, it's always nice to have a little bit of detail on the back. So let's have a look here. So let's go back into our backgrounds. I'm going to bring this one on again, so you can see there, but I'm actually going to shrink it down quite a bit this time, because I want to be able to take a nice little section of this scene. So I'm just going to crop that down just there, like so, and then bring it down so that the edges are just on the edge of the design. So you can see here, if I just zoom into the page a little bit for you, using the bottom right little button, and then scroll down here, you see that we're actually choosing which area of this design we want. So we can really decide here, we can be really fussy with the actual piece we want. We can have the moon there, we can have the moon going off the page, we can have the moon on the page, and just some of the floor area there as well. What we can also do is we can have 3 different versions of this. If I just pop this one here, and I'm just going to shrink that down just a little bit more so that it's just the perfect size for that one. And then I'm going to copy and paste. So right click and copy, right click and paste. I'm going to move this one over to the side, and then right click and copy, right click and paste, and move this one over to the side. So you can see it copies and pastes it directly over the top of the previous one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that one there. I'm going to click on crop, and because I just want to pull this bottom edge up, I'm just going to do a single click on it and pull that bottom edge up just there, like so. And then OK. I'm going to click on this one here, and I'm going to go with this section here. So I'm going to have the moon going off the edge and a little bit of the floor space there. So lovely, lovely tiled there. So we're going to click on crop. I'm going to click on, and we're going to pull this edge down. And then we're going to pull this bottom section up. I'm going to press OK. And then with this one here, I'm actually going to move it all the way up, so that we've got a different element again there. So you can see there, we're actually just going to crop the top down. So you can see, again, we're just going to click on the crop button, click onto the backing paper, and bring this down so that it matches that square perfectly. So you can see there we've got 3 different sections of that design now. So if I zoom out of the page, so you can see we've got the complete design coming together. If I go back to the overlays tab, click onto that button there, and you see we've now got a beautiful design coming together. And when we actually print this out, we can decide which one of these we want on the back of the card. But what I'm also going to do is just add a little bit of a sentiment onto there. So we're going to pop that template back on, and we're going to zoom into the page again. Going to go to the text tab, and then click on add text, and I'm going to just click on the page, and we're going to put handmade by Diane. I'm going to press Ctrl and A on my keyboard to select all of the text, and then I'm going to center the text by using the button up above the text here. And what we're going to do is pop this over the top of this area here. So we're going to pop that on there, and I'm just going to change the font. So let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at a different font. So we'll go with something quite chunky. Maybe this one here. Yep, so we'll go with that one. And what I need to do is I need to switch off the overlay before I actually use the colour picker to select my text, because while the overlay is switched on, the colour picker will actually select the muted shade because it's got the yellow tone over the top. So I'm going to click onto overlay, and then I'm going to go to my brushes tab, click on the colour picker, and then we're going to click onto the dark purple area of the text. But you can see that's actually making it blend in a little bit too much there. So if I click on here and come up to this particular area here, you can see I've actually got a nice soft lilac shade there now. If I go back to files and go back to scene building, you'll see we've actually got these unicorns here as well. So I'm just going to pop a unicorn onto the page. So just going to bring him onto the page, and then we're just going to shrink him down and pop him just down here so that he's actually on that bit of detail for us at the back there. So you can see this is actually a piece that's going to go onto the back of the card. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this sentiment here. So copy and paste, pop that just over here. And you can see because we've actually got a different section of the design here, this is actually blending into this particular area now. So if I click on brushes and go back to my colour picker and go for the dark purple, you see that we're actually bringing in the other shades from the design, but it's still blending in up at the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the colour picker and I'm going to go with the blue from there, still blending in a little bit. So we're just going to move this little dot just up a little bit in this box here. I'm going to go for a very, very, very soft shade of that blue, and I'm just going to nudge this sentiment down. So we're going to pop it down there. So this time we've got the sentiment down towards the bottom. And then we're going to copy and paste that again. So copy and paste, bring it over here. And this time I'm going to go quite dark on the colour. So I'm going to go for one of these dark colours down here. So again, this with the colour picker, we've actually chosen, you can see we click and we choose the colour out of the design. So I'm going with this really dark area down here amongst the foliage, but you can see it's not actually black, it's not gone dark, too dark, but it actually still tones with the design because we've got a lot of this colour on this particular piece here. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to our files, bring the fairy godmother on. So I'm just going to click and drag her onto the page. So just make sure I'm clicked off my text. So bear with me 1 second while I get her onto the page. And then we'll just shrink her down a little bit. And we'll pop her just on here so that she's there. She's just about to cast a spell on the person receiving the card. So we're going to pop our overlay back on, and you see we've got this little section down at the bottom here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this piece here. So you can see, whenever I'm clicking on these designs, whilst the template is over the top, so the overlay is on the top of the page, it's actually clicking on the design underneath. So the program itself doesn't necessarily see the template, and the template won't print either. So if I copy and paste this and bring this down, so it doesn't actually matter whether you actually leave the template on when you print. The only thing I will say is make sure that you remove the template. So switch off the overlay before you save the file, otherwise you can't actually turn the overlay off when you reopen it. But if I just come here and go to the Home tab, click on the crop button, and then we're just going to pull this section in here, and we're going to OK that one. And then we're going to go to this one here. I'm going to copy and paste. I'm going to drag this one down, and you can see we've got that really dark, vibrant purple going on in there. Really, really beautiful. I'm going to crop this one, so click on crop, one click on there and just pull that edge down. So you can see there we've got that. And then we're going to go back to our text tab. We're going to click on add text. I'm going to click here and we're going to go with, what should we go with? May all your wishes come true. So again, I'm going to press Ctrl A on my keyboard to select all of the text. I'm going to center the text, and then I'm going to click off and click back onto it and drag it into this box here. So I'm going to pop that onto there and stretch it up just a little bit so we can pop that there. And then I'm going to change the font back. So we used the one that's called Comic Sans on this particular one. So we just need to shrink that down because that's a slightly taller font. So I'm going to pop that onto there. And then what we're going to do is use the brushes tab. So again, we need to click that overlay off because I want to use the colours from this particular piece to have the sentiment on there. So we're going to click onto our colour picker, click onto the lighter purple there, and you can see we've got that sentiment on there in that lovely shade of lilac. And it's actually this soft shade of lilac here, which looks white on the screen. So I'm actually going to click and show you again so you can see we've got a softer purple there, which gives us a beautiful, beautiful finish. So if I now zoom out of the page, you can see we've got a complete topper page created now. And with this one, that means that we can actually print this out with a backing paper, and we can actually cut these pieces out and then just simply mat and layer our card. But what I also want to do is just group these pieces here. So I'm going to click and drag over those. So I'm going to group that one, I'm going to group that one, which has got the sentiment as well, and I'm going to group that one, just because I'm going to show you how we can actually, I'm just going to move that one back, and then we're just going to click and drag over here, and we can then start to mock up our card. So we're just going to group those two together. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to save this file. So we're going to call this, so let's have a look. I'm going to set up a new folder and we'll call it, I'll try and spell it right here guys. So we'll call it Fairy Godmother. And then we'll double click on there and we'll call it Topper Sheet. I'm going to save it as an MCS file because I want to be able to come back and edit it later. So we clicked on to save there. But what we can do now that we've saved that file is we can move all of these pieces. So if I just click and drag over here, remember we've grouped these smaller pieces down here, so I can move and drag these and everything's going to stay locked together. But what we can do now, remember we've got two backing papers there. This topper is grouped. At the moment it's behind these because it was the first thing that we created on this page. So it's actually behind everything. So we're going to right click, go to order, and we're going to bring that topper to the front. So you can see it sits perfectly on these pieces now. But what we're going to do is bring on a backing paper. So I'm actually going to change my page to landscape. So we're going to go to the print tab. We're going to change the page from portrait to landscape. So you pop your mouse over the top of the landscape, and when it actually changes to orange, that's when it's highlighted. So there you can see we've changed the page to landscape now. I'm just going to bring all these pieces up here because they're just dropping off the edge of the page a little bit. And we're going to go back to our overlays, and I'm going to come to cards, and I'm going to come up to, we'll go with A5 portrait. So now we've gone with A5 portrait. The page is landscape, but when the card is folded in half, it will actually create a portrait card. So we're going to go with A5 portrait, and this actually then gives us the card front area as well as the center point on there, but also very important, it gives us the center line down the middle of the card. So what this means is we can actually be really specific with where our design starts and finishes. So we're going to come into the colors and textures folder, and I'm going to bring on this one here. So this is the one that we used for these pieces on the card here. So you can see if we pop those over the top, they're actually not going to show up at the moment, but we're going to pop this onto here, and I'm going to rotate this around so that it fits onto the card front. To do this, I'm going to pop my mouse over that circle at the top. You see it changes to a hand. I'm going to click and drag, and whilst I'm clicking and dragging, I'm going to hold down the shift button on my keyboard so that it snaps at 45-degree angles. When I get to 90 degrees, I'm going to let go. I'm going to pop this onto my page so that it's there positioned perfectly. What I want to do now is reduce the opacity on this one. So you can see here, we're just going to reduce the opacity just so that we've got just a little bit of something on the back of the card. So it's not solid white, but actually we don't want it to be too strong because otherwise we'll not see these particular designs. What I need to do now is I need to click on this and send it to the back because it's actually in front of everything on the page. So you can see here, if I bring these over, you'll see there's a slight difference in the color when they're on the page. That's because they are behind the background because it's the last thing that we brought onto the page. So we're going to right click, go to order, and we're going to send that to the back. So you can see now everything's in front of this backing paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring on my border, and I'm going to pop this just across the middle of the card here. So you can see it's overhanging the back of the card, so we're going to crop that in a second. What I want to show you is that these lines on the front of the card, so these cross lines here, actually show you the center vertically and horizontally on this particular card shape. So what we can do is we can click and drag this in to that center point on the card front here, and then these boxes here will align on this center line here, which means that whilst this box here, the left and right ones, just jumped out of the way there. So the left and right ones are actually aligned with the horizontal line. The top and bottom ones are aligned centrally with the vertical line. So that means this piece is exactly in the center of my card. So what you can see as well is that I've actually aligned it perfectly to the dotted line on the card front there. So that means when we actually fold this card in half, we're going to have the perfect crisp line there between the card front and the card back. If you want to have this border going all the way across the back of the card, obviously that's entirely up to you. It's called creative license. It's entirely your decision. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring these pieces onto the front of the card. You see this is behind this border at the moment, so I'm going to right click, go to order, and I'm going to bring this forwards. So it just brings it in front of that border. So rather than bringing it forwards, because it will bring it all the way to the front, we just want to bring it forwards by one layer. So I'm just going to pop that one there. I'm going to click onto this one. I'm going to right click and go to order. I'm also going to bring this one forwards in front of that particular area there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this on the card front just there. So you can see we've actually got a bit of matting and layering going on here. So we're not necessarily creating a simple matting and layering card. We're doing a little bit of something a little bit creative. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring on my topper, which is in front of the design. It's going to pop this onto the page. What I want to do is just crop this topper a little bit because I've got a little bit of area here, which is where we cropped this rose. So because the bounding box for the rose is actually around there, you can see that it's actually got the area around the edge. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to go to the Home tab. I'm going to go to New, and I'm going to copy and paste that from this page. I'm going to right click and copy, and right click and paste it onto here. So you can see it's pasted it into the same place, but we've still got these edges around here. So we're going to go to our brushes tab. We're going to make the we're going to make the page transparent. So if I click onto here, go transparent and set that. And then I'm just going to switch the grid and ruler off. It won't make any difference while we're saving, but you can see we've just got this area, this blank area here. So I'm going to save this as a PNG. So I'm going to quickly just save this as a PNG and we'll call it topper, because we can't actually crop a grouped element, but what we can do is we can now go back to the files and back to our documents folder and then into Fairy Godmother, and there's my topper that I've just saved, which I can now, if I move this one out of the way, what I can do is I can come onto this one, I can crop, and I can crop this one just by clicking and dragging over it so that you can see I've got the bounding box all the way around it. So that means when I pop this centrally onto the card, you can see there now I'm aligning those boxes, so the centre boxes top and bottom and the centre boxes left and right, I'm aligning those on that grid. That means that that is exactly central on the front of my A5 card. So you can see basically what I'm doing is deciding how I'm going to create the card when I print out the sheet for the matting and layering. But what we can also do is we can create the card digitally and actually print it out digitally if you choose to as well. So we're going to make a little bit of dimension on the front of the card here at the moment because it's all quite flat. So what we're going to do, we're going to click onto the background here, go to the effects. I'm going to come down and I'm going to go to our drop shadow. So we're going to add a little bit of a drop shadow here. I'm going to pop this around there just like so, and we're going to soften that just to give us a little bit of dimension just on that piece there. I'm going to click on this one, we're going to do the same, so we're just going to add a drop shadow. This one I'm going to put round towards the bottom right so you can see that there. So you can see that black line's appearing, and then we use a blur radius slider to just soften it, just to lift it a little bit. So you can see now it actually starts to add a little bit of dimension to the design. So we're going to add a drop shadow to this one here as well. So we're going to add a bit of a deeper drop shadow to this one as if we've used 2mm 3D foam rather than the 1mm. I'm going to pop that just around to the bottom right. And then again, we're going to use that blur radius just to soften that drop shadow. Now you can see there at the moment that drop shadow is quite dark on that particular piece. If I just zoom into the page a little bit, you'll see it's actually quite dark on this piece here. So what I want to do is I'm going to copy and paste my topper. Remember, it pops it straight over the top. So what I'm going to do on the top one, I'm going to remove the drop shadow. So I'm going to bring all these sliders back across to the left hand side. And then what I'm going to do is go to my second topper. So this is the original one on the page. And what we're going to do is go to the effects and we're going to fade this one down. So it's fading down that image. It's also fading down the drop shadow that's assigned to that particular image as well. So you can see there we're actually fading that down. If I go back to the layers, you'll see if I switch that one off, we've got a soft one behind it. And because we're fading down the image, we're also fading down the effects that we've added to it. So we're fading down the drop shadow, which then means that we don't have to have that really solid dark drop shadow if we don't want to. So it just gives us another option when we're doing our matting and layering. So one of the other things I want to do now is just to add my little extra element onto the back of my card. So you can see here we've got this piece here which coordinates perfectly because we've cropped it from the same design that we've got on the front of the card. You can see here we're just going to pop this onto the back of the card here. Now we don't have the grid on the back of the card unfortunately, but that means that we can use our we can go by eye to actually centralize it on the back of the card. But what we can also do is print it on another sheet and pop it onto the back of the card if we wanted to. What I want to do is add a little bit more detail onto these pieces here on the front of this card. So if I click onto Files and go back to Scene Building, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add some foliage onto here. So we're going to get our ivy, bring this onto this piece here. I'm going to stretch it up quite large. I'm going to have it here so it's trailing. And then we're just going to crop that design here. So we're going to crop it from this particular corner here, and then I'm coming up to this line here. So if I just show you that again, so I'm going to click off the design, I'm going to click onto it and click on crop. Now, because I can't see this top corner, I don't necessarily know where to start with my crop. So I can see the bottom corner here, and obviously this is the line that I want to actually align the crop to, and along the bottom as well. So I can click on that bottom corner and drag my mouse up. It doesn't matter that I come outside of the edge of the image. What I can also do there is click and is align the crop line with the top line of the topper. And then when I let go of the mouse, you'll see it actually fits perfectly onto that topper. So we've got the ivy just trailing down the card there now. If I just fade that down just a little bit, again, just so that green's just softened just a little bit, and it just pulls a little bit of this blue through from the backing paper. It just gives us a little bit more detail on there. And then if I go back to here and add on this rose as well, so you can see it's quite small, but when I stretch it up, it's absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to pop this just down here on this particular piece here, and I'm going to do the same thing here. So we're going to crop. So we're going to click on this edge just here, and then we're going to come across and then down to the bottom edge of the topper just there, and then press OK. And you can see we've got that beautiful, beautiful flower overhanging there. Now it's overlapping the front of the topper. I actually quite like that as an idea, to be honest with you, because you can actually then snip into that and tuck the topper into it when you're actually building your card. But just for the purpose of this one, I'm actually going to go to order and I'm going to send it backwards. At the moment, it's gone behind the last layer that we pulled onto the page, which is this ivy, so it doesn't look like anything's happened. I'm going to go and send it backwards again, and you see it's gone behind the topper there. So now we're adding a little bit more colour, a little bit more detail to our card here. I'm going to bring on the other rose here, so you can see this is a slightly different rose, so you can see the centre's a little bit more detailed. I'm going to pop this one up here, and we're going to crop that one. So I'm going to pop that just there. I'm going to bring it right up, so I'm going to make it quite big on the page. I'm going to crop that one. Again, we're going to click outside of the design, and we're going to come just to the edge of the card. So you can see we've faded out the design. We can see the template because the template always stays on top of the design. We click OK. I'm going to go to order and I'm going to send it backwards by a couple of layers. Remember that we've got a few different layers in front of it, so we just need to click and send it a couple of times. I want to send it behind this topper as well, so we're going to send it backwards again by another couple of layers. It may take us a few clicks because we've got quite a lot on the page. So if I just click on the layers tab here, you'll see that it's actually got to go behind all of these elements here. So at the moment we're just working its way behind. So what is on this one, because I've got so many layers on, it's actually going to be quicker to send it all the way to the back and then bring it forwards by a few layers. So I'm going to right click, go to order, and I'm going to send it to the back. And then when I right click and go to order and bring it forwards, you see it just comes in front of the background, which is exactly what I want. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just fade that down just a little bit. So again, we've got a little bit of detail just on the back of the card there. So we've not just got a plain card front on the design there. And then what I'm also going to do is I just need to grab hold of that one and bring that one back up because I'd clicked on both of them at the same time. So what we're also going to do is we're going to add a little bit more detail down here. So I'm going to bring our fairy godmother on again. Or actually, do we bring a unicorn on? Maybe we pop a unicorn down there. So I'm going to click and bring on our unicorn, pop him down here. I'm going to stretch him up and pop him just here. So he's just overhanging the design and he's just observing the scene, just having a look at what's going on. Or we can shrink him down so that he's just giving a little bit of detail down in here. So we can pop him down there. I might make him just a little bit smaller actually so that he's just popping underneath there. We can pop him over the edge there as well. And then we're just going to pop him just there like so. Now what's going to happen at the moment is when we print this out, if we were to choose to print this as a complete card, when we fold it in half, then this area of the unicorn will actually be over the back of the card. So we're going to click on crop. I'm going to click on the crop button, and if I just zoom into the page and scroll down, you'll see if I then just pull this box in we are just making it sure that he is perfectly aligned with this centre dashed line, because that then means that when we fold the card in half, we've actually got the perfect fold down there. So you can see with the design doesn't overhang onto the back of the card. Now, if you wanted it to overhang on the back of the card, that's entirely up to you, because you may not want to chop your unicorn in half. You know, not everybody does. But then we can actually choose to leave that on there as this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to save this file. The first thing I want to do is switch the overlay off. So I'm going to switch that off, and you can see when we switch it off, it shows us a little bit more of the detail of the card that we've created. So we've created some matting and layering on here. We've created some drop shadows. We've also built our own topper. So we're going to save this down as a card. And this is the beauty of Micro Studio, because we can save it down. So we're going to call it A5 card as an editable file. But what we've always got is the element to actually come back, the option to come back in and edit it. So you can see here we've got this particular sentiment, which is for on our insert. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the overlay. So I'm going to click the overlay back on. I'm going to change it from A5 portrait card to an A5 portrait insert. And you'll see this outer edge will actually just jump inside just a little bit. So you can see we've got that edge on the inside now. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull in these elements to the edge of this insert. So I'm going to click on the background. I'm going to click on crop. I'm going to pull these images, these elements in. So just pull the edges in. So just click on crop, click on the image, and then pull these areas in to the edge just here. And then OK that one. We're going to click on the border, and we're just going to pull that edge in as well, just a little bit. So just pull that in there. And then I'm going to move my topper over to the opposite side. I'm going to delete that section off. I'm going to delete the unicorn, and I'm going to delete these areas off here as well. So you can see there now we've got our beautiful soft flower on there. We've got our topper on here as well, which we can actually fade down just a little bit, because quite often on shop bought cards the insert has the design on there, but it's actually just softer. So you can see it's just a little bit softer there, so it's just softer, or it could be full strength and just a little image down in the corner. What we're going to do is I'm just going to soften the edges of that one just to blend it into the background as well. So you can see there just a simple movement of that slider just transforms it. So if I make this bigger actually as well, so you can make it bigger, so you can see we've softened it down by reducing the opacity. But then if I soften those edges, it just blends it in and just blurs it into the background and just softens it beautifully there. So you can see we've got this flower here. And then we've got our sentiment here, which we can pop onto the inside of the card. But what we can also do is we can ungroup this if we don't want that, that solid block of colour behind. And we can just press delete on that, pop this on here. Now you can see that's actually a little bit pale on there now. So what we can do is we can go back to the colour picker, back into our brushes tab, click on the colour picker. And you can see here we actually just click on there. So we've clicked on this particular section on this topper. This lovely soft shade of plum there, really beautiful. So now our sentiment matches, and our insert is a perfect match for our card because we've created it using the same elements, and we've used those templates to actually create it. And what I just need to do is just nudge this into place using my mouse. So you can see here I've positioned it so that these boxes are on that center line again, and that means it's central on the insert when I actually print it off. So you can see there, may all of your wishes come true is on the insert. Go back to overlays and we switch that off. You can see there's our beautiful insert ready to actually print out. So if I save this, and we'll call it A5 insert, and we'll save that there. So these are all MCS files that we've just created. So I'm going to close all of these down. So close all of those, and I'm saying I don't want to save anything. I'm going to go to open. And you can see here I'm in my Fairy Godmother folder because that's the folder I was just working with. So I'm going to go to the topper sheet first. So double click on there. So, and there you can see there's my topper sheet open. So it brings up the grid and the ruler. So I'm just going to switch those off so it's easier for you guys to see. But again, we can go back to our overlays. We can click on the toppers. So click the topper sheet, click the template on, and it's there again for you. Now, if you do have a scan and cut, then on our YouTube channel, there is a demonstration by the lovely Mel Heaton that shows you how you could actually convert this into a cutting file on the scan and cut. So I believe that what you do is you change everything to black, print it out, and then scan it in, and it cuts the outline. However, there's a full video that Mel's done, so please do check that out if you do have a scan and cut machine. But what I also want to do is open up the card as well. So you can see there's our card. So there we go, you can see that's just opening there. So here's our card. You can see it's saved all these little bits that we had on the edges as well. So that's our card front and everything created there. Again, we'll just switch the grid and ruler off so you can see that's there as well. And if I just click on open and double click on the insert as well, you can see that's opened up as well. And again, the insert, if I switch the grid and rule off, you see we have that perfect little border around the edge so that it matches perfectly as a professional insert would do. So if I now save these files as JPEGs, so you can see I'm just going to click on save as, and then we're going to go to JPEG Pro Quality. So we're going to save the insert. So we're going to save that there, close that down. So no, we don't want to save the changes. And then we're going to do the same with the card. So save as, we're going to go with JPEG. I'm going to click on save, and then we're going to close that one down. So we're going to say, no, we don't want to save any changes, and we'll save this one as a JPEG as well. So this is our topper sheet that we're saving as a JPEG. So we're going to click on to save there. I'm going to close that file down as well. What we're going to do now is open a new file, and switch off the grid and ruler, come back to our files, and what we'll find is back in our documents, we have our Fairy Godmother folder, and we have these JPEGs here now. So this was the topper that we created earlier, but this is our actual topper sheet. So what we can do now is we can come back into here, and we can actually position this on the page. So you can see this is all one sheet that's locked together. We can position it on the page. We can switch our overlay back on. So if we go back into the here and we click on and switch our topper on, you can see there we can switch that on and we can position this back in there, and we can actually come back in. Let's get something from our scene building folder. So let's go with our royal carriage and pop this onto here. Just shrink it down in size a little bit. Pop it onto there, and then if we go back to the home tab and click on tile, we can actually add some detail to that border just so that we've got a little bit more detail on there. Go back to our effects and fade that down so it just gives us a little bit of a softer detail on there. So you can see we can come back in and add to the design. However, what we can also do, if I just switch that overlay off, I'm just going to delete that off the page because I'm only working on the JPEG at the moment. So if I click onto the effects tab, we can come back in and we can change the colour. So I just need to click onto the page and you can change the colour of that particular design. And you can see there we've got all these beautiful colours that we can change it to. We've got 360 different colours. But we also have the rainbow slider, which means that that rose is going to change to a different colour to the carriage, to the castle and everything else. Now the Fairy Godmother herself is actually changing to some funny colours there, but obviously there are ways that we can actually change the colour of the clothes without the skin tone, which we do have in one of the other tutorials, so please do have a look at the YouTube channel. But we can also come back in and we can crop this as well. So if we wanted to, we can click on the home tab, we can click on crop, we can click crop there, and we can remove the rest of that page, select OK, we can right click and copy, right click and paste, and we can then start to do some batch card making if we wanted to with our toppers that we've created. So we've got all these different options, from simply creating a file that was done using our overlays, which again, a lot of people don't use them because they believe that they are obsolete, but actually they will create some beautiful designs for you. And then one other thing I just wanted to quickly do with the overlays, if I just click on the grid and the ruler, click those off. If I go to the overlays, go back into the Die Cut Studio one, you'll see that we've actually got these, with the circles, ovals and rectangles, they've actually got extra elements within them. So you can see we've got the circle here, and then we've got the different sizes actually highlighted there. So if I go to our backgrounds, for example, and I bring on, let's have a look, let's bring on this one here. So we've got this one with the beautiful castle on there. So if I shrink this down so that our castle fits just in there like so, so you can see we've got a beautiful scene there. So if I go to our digital punch and bring on our basic shape, we can bring on the circle. We can pop it on here so that it actually covers the area just like so. So if I just position that onto the template there, and if I keep the inner, you'll see that we actually punched that there. So if I copy and paste, now remember it pastes it directly over the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click onto the image and I'm going to use the buttons on my keyboard. So these are the arrow buttons on my keyboard that I'm using just to move this across to the side, because it moves it along in exactly the same horizontal line. So you can see we've got that one there now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press the control button and select both of them. and I'm going to just group the two together just for now. I'm going to copy and paste again, and I'm going to click off and back on, and I'm going to move them down. So you can see we're moving horizontally, exactly aligned, so that the outer edges of those circles are exactly aligned. I'm just going to ungroup these two. So you can see here we've got the extra circle on them there. What we're going to do is bring this digital punch down. Need to bring it to the front because the digital punch needs to be in front of whatever we're working with. So we go to order and we go bring to front. And if I just shrink this down here, and we'll just stretch it up just a little bit, just shrinking it down there, just so that it covers that particular circle. So if I switch the file off, so there we can see, if I switch that one off, just want to make it just a little bit bigger just on this side here. So you can see we've got that just there. So that just fits that circle perfectly. So if I switch that one back on, and then this one here. Now, at the moment, you'll see that this particular layer here is the one that's directly behind the circle. So I need to make sure that that one's behind this one, because the punch will only work on the layer that's directly behind it. So you need to right click, go to order, and send that one backwards. So now, the digital punch is directly over the top of this particular circle here. So click on the digital punch, and then what we can do is we can keep the inner or we can keep the outer. So I'm going to keep the outer, so that's going to keep everything outside of that circle punch. So you can see there we've created a frame. If I bring the punch over to this one here and shrink it down so that it fits this circle as well, so you can see there, if I just pop that there, pop the punch over the top there, and then I need to do the same again. So I need to make sure that the punch is directly over the top of the circle I want to work with. So I'm going to send that one backwards so that the punch again is directly over the top. So you can see here the punch is at the top of the page and the layer I want to punch is actually directly underneath it. Click onto the punch and we keep the outer again, and then we're just going to do the same again down towards the bottom. So we're going to copy and paste this section here. So we're going to copy and paste. And then again, we're going to click and then we're going to pull these down. I'm literally just holding down the down arrow on my keyboard to actually move these down. So bring them down to the bottom, just like so. And then I'm just going to ungroup those two because we can only punch a single item. If I bring this digital punch down here, again, remember it needs to be at the front. So we need to go order and bring it to the front. Shrink it down so that it covers this circle here. So just going to shrink that down so it covers that particular circle in the center there. And then I just need to make sure, yep, so the punch is directly over the top of the circle we wanted to punch. So again, we're going to go to digital punch and keep the outer. Move the punch over to this side, and I'm just going to stretch it up this time so that it covers this particular circle here. And then I just need to bring this one forward by one layer because again, I just need to make sure that it's directly behind the punch. Click onto the punch and then keep the outer. And you'll see now what I've actually created when I switch that overlay off is a almost an inverted pyramid decoupage. So if I now pop this one over the top of the scene, so you can see that it looks like there's nothing there, but if we go to the effects tab, and just so that I can show you when we add a drop shadow, you can see we're actually adding some shadow and depth on the inside. You can see that's actually going around the circle there. So we're adding some depth and dimension to it. If I then bring this one over the top and then send that one behind, so that needs to go backwards by one layer, and I add a drop shadow to this one, you'll see that we're creating the shadow on this one here. I just need to nudge that one over just a little bit. So if I just click onto it, just on the edge there, you can see just aligning it so that it's aligned directly behind that one there. And you can see we're starting to create almost a stepped decoupage file for our images here. So you can actually use these particular overlays by using the digital punches and making sure that you're actually aligning the digital punches over the top of the circles and create some unique design. So you can see here, you can pull this one over the top, and what we need to do is just send that one backwards so that it's behind a couple of those other layers. So I just want to align it so that it's aligned on the design just there, like so, and go to order and send it backwards so that it's behind the other layers. So send it backwards, and then we'll just add a drop shadow to that one. And again, you'll see that we've just added the drop shadow. So if I add quite a deep drop shadow and just move it around, you'll see that we're adding the depth there. So what we can actually do is we can cut these out using our dies if we wanted to, or we can cut them out using the scan and cut machine, or even with scissors or a craft knife if you're that good with a circle. But we do have squares and rectangles on here as well for you. But I just wanted to show you that these overlays, you know, they may not be, you may not be able to get the die cut sheets anymore, but that absolutely doesn't mean that you can't use the overlays. And just remember, we've also just created an A5 card using one of our overlays, and also our beautiful topper sheet that was the first thing we created in this class. So I'm hoping that this has actually given you an insight into using the digital punch tab and also the overlays, because those overlays are actually really versatile, particularly if you need a quick card. If you're needing to knock up a quick card for somebody, maybe somebody has just said, oh, we're popping over, you know, I'm taking somebody out shopping because it's his birthday tomorrow, and you've forgotten to make a birthday card, then you can jump on Micro Studio, use the templates that are in the overlays tab, knock up a quick card, print it out. It's designed by you, it's still created by you, you've still been creative when you're building it, and there you've actually got the card complete. And we also created the insert as well, so I'll just open that for you as well, so you can just see the last file that we created there, which was our beautiful insert that perfectly coordinates with the card. But then we also have the topper sheet so that we can make the card dimensionally if we choose to. So that is how we use our overlays tab. I'm hoping that you found this useful, and I'm hoping that you've loved the fairy godmother artwork, because I absolutely adore this one. I was so pleased that we had it as a download just in time for me to record this class. It's absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, so that's the overlays tab. Please do let us know how you get on with using it, and you know, share your projects with us, because we love to see them in the Micro Studio official Facebook group. And don't forget, we do have that code for you, which is Fairy50, that's Fairy50, and that will give you 50% off the Quirky Bird Designs Fairy Godmother Scene Building Download, which is on the Highlight Crafts website. So that will be a link in the description below. And yeah, so for 2 weeks from the 31st of August, you can download that for half price, and you can create your own topper sheets. You can create your own cards, you can create your own decoupage, so much you can do with it. And I love the fact it's almost like a mini collection in its own right, because you've got the scenes and the textures in there as well. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope you found this class useful, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you very much. Bye bye. If you want to see more from Highlight Crafts, make sure you click the like button. Subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below, and click the bell icon to receive notifications of our future content. You can also click here to see our latest video, or click here to see more videos like this one.